All right, cool. We're good to go. Hello and welcome to Shoe Dares Wins podcast. My guest today is Zoe. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So Zoe, for the audience, can you tell me how you've dared and won?
Okay. So I suppose I'll start by saying I lost my leg in a car accident in 2015. And then, following that, just kind of, obviously I had, a sort of period of pretty horrendous depression. And I'd always been really sporty before I had my accident. Sport was sort of intrinsically part of my identity. And then that was kind of thrown into, this whirlwind. I didn't really know who I was. Suddenly I was disabled, but at that time far more so, I was in pain all the time, and I lost loads of weight and just became somebody that I didn't really recognise, certainly not I didn't feel like I knew who I was anymore. And after quite a long period of rehab and just initially I was just happy to start walking and quite passionately, like people would say, are you going to be in the Paralympics? And I used to be like, no, I just want to walk. Just give me a minute. I found that really irritating.
Okay.
That expectation that if you acquire a disability, you're suddenly going to be like a world champion at, 100-meter sprinting.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And I know it's something that able-bodied people do to motivate, but it's, it doesn't always work like that. It's not always received in a positive way. Well, certainly it wasn't for me at that time. And then after a few years, it was kind of, I think, in lockdown, so it's like 5 years later, I started to feel much stronger. Life didn't feel quite so overwhelming. And I was looking at doing sport again and trying to step back into that arena, not to be an athlete, but just to, enjoy myself doing one of my hobbies again. And actually I found it really, really hard. Like I couldn't, because of the extent of my injuries, I can't run. So one of my sporting attributes, if you like, had been speed.
Okay.
And I was just slow.
Right.
And I found that really confronting. I was just irritated by it. So I wanted to do something different that I'd never done before. I've always loved the ocean. I grew up by the sea. I used to do a lot of bodyboarding, but had never really spent the time honing being like a surfer. So I took up surfing, and now, despite my previous irritation, I'm ISA world champion for parasurfing.
That's pretty badass. That's pretty amazing.
Cheers.
I'm interested. So pre-accident, you were really into sport. Was there any particular sport that you were just like full on into, or was it just a variety of?
Like as a kid, I used to swim for like national schools level, but actually didn't. I was really, really good at it, but I didn't really enjoy it. It was kind of just the training schedule for swimming is insane. I played tennis to county standard, but I kind of suppose my love was football. I loved football. Okay. I played for Southampton and then Oxford, where I was living at the time. Wow. Yeah, and that. I mean, I wasn't the best in the world, but I really, really enjoyed it. It was fun. So I just kind of have tried everything and anything. I could just come from a sporting family, and I did a sports science degree. It's always been like a passion of mine.
Would you say that it was quite linked to your identity, and therefore then it was when it was taken away after the accident, you were kind of like, did you feel like there was a piece of you missing?
Yeah, 100%.
Like that was part of a huge part. I think with sport anyway, it is, isn't it? Like to have, if you're passionate about sport and fitness, it becomes a huge part of your life. And yeah. I mean, it's huge, isn't it? It's like, if you're a young person who's sporty and active, there's a lot that goes with that, isn't it? People see you as like vivacious, kind of. I was always out with my mates doing stuff, like a little bit life and soul of the party, if you like. And then all of a sudden I was the one that was always whinging about being in pain, because I was. I lost loads of weight. I didn't have anything to motivate me. I couldn't really be asked to eat. And then actually that became quite a passionate pursuit of mine, was just to not eat. Because I wanted control, but also I was probably in a way like kind of
asking for help, I suppose. But yeah, I just didn't really know who I was. I was suddenly visually a very different person. You know, I'd gone from being athletic and strong to very, very obviously vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And people talk to you different, people approach you different, people either shy away from you because they don't really know what to say, or all they want to do is talk about the accident, and you're kind of consumed by it anyway. Like I literally didn't think about anything else for a long time, you know, like just absolutely everything was about pain and operations, and it's all consuming. It's hard to explain, but I suppose it's a bit like grief, you know, it just takes over your life and then you have to work your way through that. You can't rush it.
Right.
And what you see now isn't like a tragedy to triumph sort of story, and people say, oh, what happened and how did you get through that? And you have to, I will always acknowledge that it was dark, you know, really, really dark for a long period. And time, bit of motivation along the way, meeting different people, pushing yourself. And eventually you get to a place where you're healthy and well again, just with a acquired disability.
Yeah. Was there a turning point at, you know, because it could have gone like one way or another, I guess, when you were in the depths of like grief. Was there a turning point, or was it just a gradual thing?
Yeah, I think it was pretty gradual. There were like pivotal points, if you like, but none of them would have happened if it hadn't have had that time. Mm-hmm. So I went to an event run by a charity called Limb Power, which was definitely a pivotal point within that, but I wouldn't have gone like 6 months earlier, if you know what I mean. Because I would have been like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to be involved in an amputee charity. I wouldn't have felt confident enough to go into that socially because I was quite low. But I'd progressed to a point where I was able to do that. And then when I went in, and it was like a weekend event at Stoke Mandeville Hospital, and there were, to be honest, when I'd had my accident, I had never, I don't think, even met an amputee.
Right.
And was just like, they're completely disabled. You know, what the hell am I going to do? And when I went to that event, there were people with more significant amputations than me, like quad amputees, you know, no arms, no legs, sometimes missing a nose if they'd had sepsis. And they were, using variety of prosthetics. Some people were playing badminton with like bats strapped to stumps and running around racetracks on double blades. And that was a big wake up moment for me, where I was like, Jesus, actually, life is definitely attainable with this injury, and I just need to access support from this community. At that point, that's what I needed. So I became friends with a lot of people that I'd met during that weekend. And by talking to them about, you know, just the daily, like sort of weird stuff that happens during just immediately post limb loss, like you can't just strap a prosthetic on and go. There's about 3 years of healing for the limb. And so just by talking and learning about that journey with other people, I definitely saw a quick and like a steady rise in my mental health, and was sort of like, okay, yeah, I know it hurts now, but if I just push that forward, you know, Jiminy Bod told me that I'd be all right tomorrow, sort of thing. And so I ended up feeling more secure and strong within my body, and adapting to the prosthesis. So
was it after that event when did you kind of hone in on the surfing? Or you didn't surf before?
No, like I've done bits and pieces because I grew up in Bournemouth. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, I've stood up on a board every now and then, but definitely, you know, like a total beginner.
Right.
You know, but I can't actually really even tell you why. I think it was a lot of it was the wave, because I learnt about the wave and I just thought that's a really safe kind of easy, accessible place to walk in. I didn't have like a waterproof prosthetic or anything, so I just thought, well, you know, I know that they did beginner lessons. I knew that I'd have a water kind of coach, somebody like lifeguards all around me, and I just thought I'm going to go for it. And I booked a session, and then lockdown happened, which was obviously annoying. So it ended up being delayed until whenever we came out of that. I can't remember, like hundreds of years later. And then I came down here and just... What I loved initially about surfing was just how incredibly difficult it was, which sounds weird, but that's part of the addictive nature of the sport, is that it's absolutely nails to be good at. So you have to work hard at it. I had no comparison. I hadn't been an absolute shredder before.
All right, okay.
And so, you know, I knew that whatever progress I made would be an advancement on what I had before.
That's interesting. So if you'd have gone, the mindset was a little bit, if you'd have gone into, say, like football again, you've got a preconceived what you could do.
Yeah, so I played walking football with like a bunch of pensioners, which, don't get me wrong, I quite enjoyed, ironically. My Tuesday night with the, Jeff and Jim, the lads down walking football club. But it was frustrating because I'd been fast. So, you know, everything that I wanted to do, my body couldn't do anymore. And it's a bit like, I don't know, it's a bit like getting old or just retiring or whatever. There's always going to be an element of frustration that you can't do what you used to.
Yeah.
But that had suddenly just been thrown upon me. Whereas I didn't have that with surfing. Like, I'm always better than I was last time.
Right.
And I don't have that, I used to be amazing at like a backhand snap, but now my leg's limiting, because I don't know. Okay. So, some people find that inspiring. It's obviously it's also a bit of a cop out, but for me it works. I don't, when I'm on the water, my thoughts aren't about my leg or what it can't do. It's just about the enjoyment of surfing and the freedom of movement that I get, which to be honest, I still, like, nobody can really believe.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible. And then, so how long was the pickup to be on the British team? Because it seems really short. Like you.
Yeah, it was like ludicrously quick. So with like the para team, I literally went to the first Worlds like a few months after I'd started surfing.
No way.
And that's not really testament to my skill, but it was more of, they took me for an experience to get exposed to competition surfing, to see whether or not I liked it. And also you get points as a team for however many members you've got in your team. So it was beneficial to the team for me to go. I was obviously well up for it, and went across to California. I was, very much a beginner, so just went through the motions, but really enjoyed it. And it motivated me to, I was watching other standing surfers and thinking, so it's attainable. I know that there's, a place where you can feasibly get to as an amputee, and that's what I wanted to do. And then just, came home and just started dedicating, huge amounts of my time and energy to it. And as I've gone through that journey with grants and sponsors that have come on board, it's enabled me to actually just basically live the life of, a sort of professional surfer, if you like, because I'm in a way getting money to surf. So
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What was your career before?
So I'd worked before I had the accident. I was just about to start being a PE teacher.
Okay.
I had I've just got a placement onto this sports college as a postgraduate certificate in education. And then I had the accident and I deferred the place. But for me, I'd never be able to stand and teach now for, that amount of time. And I would, to be honest, I just didn't really know how I would teach like a forward roll, or I just thought, I'm not going to be the best person for this job anymore. And so then I did I kind of bounced around and did a number of different things. But this has sort of given me back that kind of passion and motivation for life, if you like.
I did a quick Google before, and so surfing is not in the Paralympics. So when you say the British team, so that's for is it the ISA? Is it like the surfing tour as such that you'll go out with the British team on?
Yeah, so we didn't get into the Paralympics in LA 2028, which means that we can't be a part of GB surfing, which is obviously like on the Olympic pathway. But I surf for Surfing England, which is the national governing body, which has teams, you know, Surfing England Juniors, Surfing England Para, etc. And we compete in the International Surfing Association event as a team, which is part of like an amateur pathway, which normally feeds into the Olympics or Paralympics.
Right.
So there are also professional events for parasurfing. There's a adaptive association or association of adaptive para surfers, and that's a world tour which is in multiple different spots, primarily America. There's one in Oz, and that you get money from when you win, but it's really expensive for a European surfer to get that unless you've got significant sort of 15 grand up sponsorship.
Oh wow.
Because of the location and the cost associated with it. But so there's quite a lot of movement within parasurfing, regardless of the lack of the Paralympics. So I mean, like, you know, surfing's not been in the Olympics forever. It's just a recent thing. We got into Paris. Obviously, it's going to be in LA, and it will almost certainly then be in Brisbane. But surfing's been, you know, a professional sport for years with the World Surf League. It's just amazing that now parasurfing is making the same movements, albeit on a small and steady incline.
Yeah. Is there anyone that you kind of look up to in the surfing industry that's kind of doing what you're set to doing, but a bit further down the line? Or do you think you're kind of breaking through with a new, you know, are there any female Paralympic para surfers that you kind of take?
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, to be honest, I'm inspired by all of my teammates and all para surfers, because there's such a huge amount of adversity that most of those people have gone through in any way. Getting into the ocean and being smashed to bits is hard work for anybody. It's, you know, being a beginner at anything is super intimidating.
Yeah.
And so for people that are missing multiple limbs, that are visually impaired, that have got, you know, cerebral palsy, which affects every neuro pathway in their body, to be going out and doing what we're doing is so ballsy. You just can't help but be like impressed by everybody. So that I wouldn't say there's a particular person, it's more the movement, which is cool. There are standout people who I like. Melissa Reed is my best friend that I met through parasurfing, and we surfed together, and she's visually impaired, and we bounce off each other, and I've learned a lot from her because she's like an amazing water woman. But yeah, overall, I would just say it's kind of a collective. When you go to a parasurfing event, you're just like, oh my God, look at that guy. You know, he's broken his neck and he's out catching a 6-foot bomb.
Yeah.
Like this.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
And it'll give other people, you know, that are back in the situation that you were years ago, hope. Yeah. And like you say, something to aim for. So my cousin has 2 twins, and one of them lost his leg below the knee at birth. And a couple of weeks ago, she went to an event. I can't remember where it was, but it was like a sporting event for children with the same prosthetic legs. And she was just wowed. It was
probably Limb Power.
Yeah, it might have been. And she said it was just such a positive experience. But she's been navigating this world of, she's really positive about his legs, and he's just started school. And my little ones, when they were around him, were like, what, you know, kids don't have a filter. And so they're like, what's up with his leg? And she's like, well, it's his magical leg. And he, because he's had it since birth, doesn't really know. But from a parent's point of view, I was like, she's really straight talking too. I was like, you know, what is it that we all like scoot around, or like what is irritating, and she was just like, I want people to ask questions. I don't want people to, you know, be funny about it because he's got to be, you know, live with this. And then she talks about how, you know, her going and seeing other people, families where kids are like striving has helped him. So I guess my question to you is, for anyone that's got a family member of someone that's perhaps been in your situation, had an accident, lost a limb, or even born in that situation, like, would you have any kind of words for them from a sporting perspective about how to deal with it and what the most important thing to be supportive would be? That's quite a big question.
Yeah, that's broad. Yeah, so I think one of the things that I always do with, you know, when I lost my leg, I had like a lot of like my godchildren, my nieces. One of the things that I always did was call it a prosthetic. Mm-hmm. And that was just important to me, because you get kids that will say like robot leg or various different things, or, you know, kind of euphemisms for prosthesis, you know? And actually, I think if you introduce children, this is like from a perspective, if you're introducing children without limb loss to limb loss, I think it's good for kids. Like my little 5-year-old goddaughter will say, you know, Auntie Zoe's prosthetic. And I love that, because that's correct terminology for the, you know, disability.
Right.
And so it's not making it like digestible. It's like, this is real life. This is a prosthetic. She's lost her leg. I think I'm not a mum, so I can't imagine that pathway that your sister's gone through in that instance. And I think she will almost certainly navigate that in her own way. But I think for me personally, I have no issue with children asking questions. I get irritated by adults that stare and ask questions like somebody in the opticians the other day said to me, "Oh, I feel so sorry for you." And I was like, well, don't.
You should see what I could do on a way.
Outrageous. And yeah, I suppose the more contact that you have with the limb loss community through, I'm sure that would have been a Limb Power Junior weekend, the more that you can gather and gain momentum into like, okay, if my son's lost his leg below the knee at birth, most likely he'll be able to do pretty much everything until he's until he's really in an older age and struggling like everybody would do. And it's taking out some of that, really that fear of disability that we have, and greeting it with, this is what people can do. There are people who won't thrive as a disabled person, like there are able-bodied people who don't thrive in life.
Life,
you know, it's life.
Yeah.
But it's not, you know, if you can concentrate on those positives and push people, well, you know, I suppose I didn't have a disability as a child, but, you know, my friend Melissa, who I was talking about, she's visually impaired, and her dad taught her to ride a bike. And she went on to be a Paralympic triathlete because she can ride a bike. And a lot of blind kids will never get taught to ride a bike because it's not safe. And it's, as a parent, if you can push boundaries in a safe way with that disabled young person, bring them down, let them go into the water, try and reduce your own anxiety about what you see a disability as. You know, trying to take that kind of ableism. Genuinely, I've still got it.
Right.
I can't pretend that I don't still have that occasionally, that mindset, because I was an able-bodied person.
Yeah.
And so I find myself going, oh, that's not acceptable, Zoe. You can't, that's not, you know, that's an ableist point of view, because just because I've lost a limb doesn't mean I didn't spend, you know, the first years of my life as a non-disabled person. We have to challenge those perspectives that we all have about what you can and can't do.
And that's interesting, because it very much comes down to, I imagine, a huge part of your journey has been mindset.
Yeah.
And working on that.
It's all mindset.
It's all mindset. Yeah. And that's fascinating. So have you done any kind of, I mean, I'm a lover for just reading stuff on mindsets. And actually, one thing that you said is like when you're in a really dark place, I've been reading lately David Goggins about how like he was like everything is learned in the dark place. Like that's that's the only way you can get out, by just learning the dark place. But from a mindset point of view, what was the biggest change? Like what from in mindset? You were in a dark place and then you came through it. How it was, I guess it was a gradual thing, like you said at the start, but is there anything now, kind of without a cheesy quote, that you firmly believe in?
Not really. I wish that in a way when I did stuff like this that I could give you what happened and what the trigger point was, but it is just about giving yourself an opportunity to be low, allowing that process to happen, because something, excuse my language, really shit's happened.
Yeah.
And we don't have to be okay because of that.
Yeah.
You can grieve, you can go through those dark times. It's just having the ability to hang on to the fact that if you don't allow yourself to completely be consumed by that, if you can have things that motivate you, you can look at people. And the reason why honestly, I love surfing, but in terms of competing, I could sort of take it or leave it. I'm not a naturally competitive surfer.
Okay.
I absolutely love being out in the sea with my mates and surfing and getting better and progressing. But when it comes to the comps, it's something that I'm passionate about for representation. That's why I do it. So somebody else that has just lost their leg is Googling sports that they can do and sees somebody with prosthetic surfing, goes, oh, okay, that's an opportunity. And for me, it was just time, and it was pushing myself out of that, because the dark place became the comfort zone. And, I think that's one of the things that we maybe don't acknowledge sometimes when we're depressed or struggling with anxiety, is that becomes your safe space. You don't like it necessarily, but it's, retreating to your bedroom, lying in bed for 12 days. It's easier than punching your way through it,
Yeah.
I didn't read books. I didn't do the stuff that I should have done. I didn't talk to people particularly. I had a really close family, a really close group of friends. It was just a journey that I had to go through. And now almost I can tell you that the reason was resilience. I grew up and was taught to be a resilient person. I like the little things in life. I get a lot of pleasure from the birds chirping in the garden, the sunrise, the sunset, seeing somebody that I love laugh, and holding on to those things gets you up every day when you're in that miserable state. And then if you can at that point see something and be inspired by something, then you've got a path out.
Yeah.
And I think that's really like the only way I can describe it, because self-help books are good if you're in a place where you want to be helped. But if you're really, really, really dark and deep, I would say access professional help, explore medication, and talk to people. Mm-hmm. It's a fine line. Like I don't feel confident sort of necessarily giving advice, because I didn't handle depression in the best way, but I kind of got out of it came out of it in a good state,
Yeah. There's no blueprint, is there? Like, I feel like I'm a fine one for like hooking onto something and going, oh, if I copy this person's, and it's like, no, like we're all just forging our own path. Like you kind of got to find
just
your
bumbling
own route.
along doing what we can. And like we're all complicated, and we've all come from different, we all have our own issues. Like I've always been really like a strong-willed person, and that was part of it for me. I was like, I am literally not I'm not going to let this beat me. But equally, that had a negative effect, because being that strong meant that I felt weak, and that pissed me off.
Right, got you.
So there's no real, as you say, blueprint for recovery from mental health. For me, it was time, it was being inspired, and it was a bit more situational depression as opposed to like a kind of clinical depression, where I think really, if you just have a kind of cognitive imbalance, then I do believe that people need to access help.
Yeah. And from the surfing perspective now, you're finding your way. Like, what do you have any long-term goals, or are you just taking it as it comes?
Yeah, I'm just kind of taking it as it comes. Like, in terms of goals, I just want to be, they shift all the time. So obviously it was like, kind of originally it was just get to your feet, and it was go down the line, and now it's like to do more vertical turns. And my goals are kind of primarily around the performance that I can do surfing as opposed to attainment. But I did win the ISA Worlds last year, and I'd like to win it again. And I'd like to continue to be successful within competitions, but that would be directly aligned with being a better surfer and continuing to progress, and just working hard and pushing people's idea of para sport. So like one of the coolest things that's happened to me was, what day is it? Sunday. Mm-hmm. Friday I was surfing, and there's these 4 groms, like kids, in the water with their dad. And the groms are always like absolute shredders. And we were all out on the session together, and I was chatting to them, and they were all in front of me in the lineup, so they'd caught a wave one after the other, and then their dad. And then I came down the line and surfed. I did a couple of backhand snaps and pulled off, and the kids were like, and actually, to be fair, the dad as well. And then as I paddled back, the dad said, I've seen some of your videos on Instagram, but he was like, that's absolutely amazing. Mm-hmm. And then last night, on the little one's Instagram, he wrote, I've never seen parasurfing in real life, and my God, wow, that was incredible.
Yeah.
And that is massive. Yeah. Because you've just, within that child's perspective, you've shifted something. You're no longer somebody that people feel sorry for. You've actually opened up a different version to that person of what disability looks like or what disability can do. Yeah. That's the reason as well that drives me forward, is like, where can we take this? What can somebody missing a front leg do on a surfboard? And that it's not just about surfing, it's what can you do in life? How can you push yourself? And that actually translates to all of us, doesn't it? Regardless of disability.
Yeah, totally. And here at the Wave then, so this is kind of a place where you come and do a lot of your training. So you train in Cornwall as well.
And at home.
Bournemouth, yeah. Where's your favourite place to surf?
My favourite place to surf is at home.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's this is my hometown. I drive there, 15 minutes, get out, everybody's there. And I know it better than anywhere else. It's absolutely Baltic and a crap wave, but it is what it is. But anywhere really, anywhere where you're with your friends, right, is my favourite place to surf. I love coming here, and I love training. You have to have a balance, because surfing in the wave pool for me is about progressing my turns, sharpening things up, trying new things that you don't get the opportunity to in the sea. Mm-hmm. And then if you have to be able to translate that into the ocean, because the ocean does not click and go. Yeah. You could be, you have to find the peak, you have to be in the right spot, you have to navigate other people in the lineup, also trying to catch the wave. There's far more stuff going on. You have to be situationally aware and have the ability to read waves, which you don't get from here. So you have to coordinate both if you want to be an all-round surfer. You can also just come here and shred and enjoy yourself. So it's just totally individual. But for me, because I compete a lot in the sea, I will do winter at home, spring at the wave, summer in Cornwall, back for like the autumn period at home, and then it's always competition season, really.
Okay, nice. And for someone who's a non-surfer, what is it about surfing?
Ooh, I mean, for me, I love the water. Mm-hmm. I love the sea. So that's one thing. You know, it's a big, you know, just getting out into the ocean is a completely holistic experience. Even here, you know, I can guarantee you on your lesson later, you'll think about nothing else other than what you're doing. You'll have 1 hour where the only thing in your head is, I want to get to my feet.
Okay.
And maybe a concern about the environment that you're in for that minute, but you won't be standing in that lineup going, oh God, tomorrow I've got to be up at 9 and blah, 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 blah. It all goes.
Okay.
It's a full sort of mind and body experience. And also, the better you get, the more fun it is in a way. So it becomes just a completely addictive dopamine rush. Like people say it's good for your mental health, but I think once you've experienced it, you just realise that your mental health's bad every time you're not. So you know, what can't you love? Like you can be sitting in the sea at sunset on a board, and there's seals around you and birds, and it's a beautiful sport, hobby, whatever you want to call it, pastime. And it is really, really, really good fun. As long as you do it safely, that's the one thing that I would say to anyone that was thinking of surfing. A wave pool is a good place to start. But if you go into the ocean, make sure it's with a lifeguard or a competent surfer who knows rips and everything, because it's not something to be taken lightly. You can get hurt. Bad stuff can happen.
Yeah.
It's an extreme sport.
Is there a such thing as a bad surf session?
Oh, God, yeah.
All right.
Yeah. I won't lie to you. Yeah. Yeah, there are definitely bad surf sessions. But it's still better than, you know, an hour in the office.
Right, okay. Yeah, that says a lot for the sport, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Well, I think your story is incredible. Like, I was watching that same video that kid reposted this morning, and I was like, it's these certain things, isn't it? With anything you do in life, it's the messages. For me, it's always someone, I don't know, there was a lady who said that she would always wear a She Dares Wins t-shirt when she'd go and get chemo, and she was going through breast cancer with her best mate. And like those messages are the ones that just go, right, what are you doing? Just keep going, like keep going. There's somebody out there watching that your story will have a massive, you know, impact on, which I think is absolutely awesome.
Yeah.
What's the next couple of years like for you?
I think the next couple of years I'll carry on as I am. Mm-hmm. I'll probably wait and see what they say about which might take us up to 3 years, but I'll probably wait and see what they say about the Brisbane Paralympics. If
it's Aussie, it's like...
Yeah, I know, but we thought that about LA, you know? Like, they used a surfboard fin for the A.
They were like, nah.
They chose climbing. It is what it is. But, yeah, I guess we're hopeful for Brisbane. But regardless, probably the next 2 to 3 years, I'll concentrate on where I am in terms of training to compete, and then it will be potentially at some point just you know, a gradual shift into just surfing as my, you know, like everyone else does.
Yeah.
Just surf for fun, surf with your friends. It will always be now intrinsically part of my life. It's going to be the thing that, you know, I can't see me ever going on holiday and not being able to surf at that location. But it might not be my job anymore.
Okay, so it's inbred, it's stuck forever.
Oh, yeah.
I love that.
For sure.
That. Amazing. Well, listen, thank you so much for giving me your time and sharing your story. It's absolutely amazing, and you've definitely dared and won.
Cheers.